Any questions? So if you have any questions, ask them at the end, so I don't get freaked out. Every 2 years, we in Iowa get to exercise our right to vote. Every 4 years, we cast our ballots to decide who will control the highest office in the land, the presidency of the United States. This year's elections will be on Tuesday, November 6th. But as you might have seen on TV, read in the newspaper, or heard on the radio, the presidential campaigning is already in full swing. Voting is important for several reasons. Voting chooses our leaders and shapes our country. Your vote matters, and the right to vote is very precious. Voting is at the heart of the American political system. The United States is a type of representative democracy called a republic. This means that citizens choose people to act on their behalf. Voting is the way we choose these people to work for us, whether it be in town halls, the state capitol building, or Washington, D.C. Mayors, governors, and presidents are all chosen by voting. The people who vote are called the constituency, which means the people that are represented. In this country, there are 2 national political parties that together have produced every U.S. president for the last 150 years. The Republican Party is considered right of center or conservative. The governor of Iowa is a Republican, and so is the majority of the United States House of Representatives. The Democratic Party, the other party, is considered left of center or liberal. The current president of the United States and a majority of the U.S. Senate are Democrats. Each of these parties is running a candidate for president in the 2012 election. The Democratic candidate is the current or incumbent President Barack Obama. President Obama was born in Hawaii and served as a senator from Illinois before his election to the highest office in the land in 2008. The Republican candidate is Willard Mitt Romney. Romney, who is more commonly known by his middle name, is the son of a former governor of Michigan and a former governor of Massachusetts in his own right. As a voter, you will play an important part of deciding which of these men will lead our country for the next 4 years. In the American election or electoral system, your vote matters very much. However, the presidential race is not directly decided by who gets the most votes. It's built on a system called the Electoral College. The Electoral College is a unique system that was first developed by our founding fathers during the writing of the U.S. Constitution over 200 years ago, and has been modified since then. According to Article 2 of our country's Constitution, each state gets a number of electors dictated by their population in the last census and equal to the representation in the United States House of Representatives and Senate. Each of these electors is allowed 1 vote in choosing our president. There are currently 538 electors available. California has the most at 55. The states of Alaska, Delaware, and Montana, North and South Dakota, Vermont, Wyoming, and the District of Columbia have the least at just 3 electors. Iowa has 6 and has lost 1 elector since the 2008 presidential election. You might ask, why should I vote if the electors choose the president? The electors from a state vote for whichever president won the presidential election in that state, except when it comes to Maine and Nebraska, where the electors vote on the majority in the districts and not in the state as a whole. Some states usually vote for the Democratic candidate. Others usually vote for the Republican candidate. Blue states are the states that vote Democrat, usually, and red states are the states that vote Republican. Iowa is what is called a swing state, which means that here races are always really tight between the 2 parties, and offices have an equal chance of going to either candidate. Proof that Iowa is a swing state can be found in the 2 men who represent our state in the United States Senate. Charles Chuck Grassley is a Republican senator, and Thomas Harkin is a Democratic senator. In 2008, President Obama, a Democrat, won the state of Iowa. But 4 years earlier, in 2004, then President George W. Bush, a Republican, won our state. This is why we see a lot more political ads in many states. It's because we're so important, because we can go either way. As a country, our decision in the 2012 presidential election is of enormous importance in our country's future. The president has many important powers given in the Constitution. The president is charged with ensuring that our nation's laws are followed. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the strongest military force the world has ever seen. He also has important powers in our nation's system of checks and balances. He can veto bills passed by Congress and appoint judges to the U.S. Supreme Court. The presidential race, however, won't be the only one on in 2012. Several other offices will be decided by the votes of those who live in this area. Candidates of these offices will also follow the two-party formula. Republicans and Democrats will be running against each other for county and city elections. The ability to choose who occupies our government's offices is something you should cherish, because voting is a right. All American citizens over the age of 18 who have not been convicted of a felony or a major crime can vote in general elections. If you were born in the United States, then voting is a birthright. Voting, however, is not just a right. It is also what is called a civic duty. If people don't vote, then democracy cannot work. Voting is the best way to show that you're patriotic. It's not only expressing your opinion, but your patriotism. The right to vote is so precious because for much of our nation's history, not all Americans could practice it. Before the 15th Amendment of 1870, Americans could be legally restricted, have their voting privileges taken away based on their race. Even after that amendment, states continued to pass laws aimed at restricting African Americans from voting. Until the 19th Amendment of 1919, Americans were prevented from voting because of their gender. It was the 1920 election, less than 100 years ago, that saw the first presidential votes given by women. Many Americans seem to forget how precious their right to vote is, and how hard so many have worked to ensure that they have that right. According to the United States Elections Project, only 61.6% of eligible voters cast their ballots in the 2008 presidential election. Only 60% did so in 2004. Voters in local, state, and congressional elections are often even fewer. Only half of all eligible Iowans voted in the 2000 election that decided our state's governor. Those who don't vote don't understand the truth about the right to vote and how precious that right is. Voting is important. It is a precious right that you can use to express your political opinions by choosing your leaders. Before you vote in the 2012 elections, however, there are some things that you must do. First, you must know who the candidates are. Here's the Democratic candidate for president, Barack Obama, the current president. And here is his opponent, who goes by Mitt Romney, is the Republican candidate. First, you must register to vote in the county in which you live, which would be Iowa. You live here or around here. Iowa is one of the few states that allows you to register all the way up till election day. Before voters go to the polls, however, you do not only have to know the candidates, but you have the civic duty and responsibility to get informed on the issues and know exactly what these candidates stand for. You can watch news channels and debates between the candidates to decide which ones you feel will better represent you. And then you can go out and cast your ballot. Thank you. Yes?
Well,
Do you want to tell him that he did a nice job?
you did a good job, and I want